ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc., brought to you by Geico, with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
9 games in the NFL decided by one score in Week 8. Unfortunately, the Bears at the center of the drama after an agonizing 12-second play that actually was 17 seconds, snap to finish, that ended in a Noah Brown touchdown on a Hail Mary launch by Washington rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, and the Bears go down in D.C. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Episode 106 of the Bears Etc. podcast is brought to you by Geico. All I got to say is what a Sunday, Tom. If you love the sport, if you love the excitement, you're loving the NFL, which now I believe is up to 66 games decided by one score so far in this first half of the season, NFL record. But when you're on the losing end of it, the pain is real. But just like a win, you got to flush it. You got to flush the loss and tuck it away somewhere. I don't know how you feel as a broadcaster. I know how you'd feel as a player. As a broadcaster, I think this one's going to sit for a couple days.
Yeah, I can't flush it. I need to get out the plunger and help it down because I can't get rid of it. And I've been a part of nearly 800 games as a player and a broadcaster, and this is the first time I've ever been a part of this. And I think the winning end is as exciting as the losing end is disappointing, because in the reality of watching it last night from the booth, as you and I were seeing it, the overwhelming disappointment of watching the opponent catch the ball in the end zone and knowing that all the effort that the players put in to fight a great comeback, be resilient about getting themselves an opportunity to win that game, and then it all go down the drain within that 17 seconds. As I sit here today, it's still hard to get over.
I remember I said what felt like 2 seconds on the board felt like 20, so I was a little off, but I was in the right area code. It felt like...
Yeah, and it was that way. His, the quarterback scrambling ability, and then almost the flight of the football was the great unknown of what was going to happen.
He scrambled for over 40 yards. Back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what you have to do when you know that you have to allow your receivers to get in position to make that type of play. It's not something you can have a 5-step drop back, throw the ball up in the air, and let those guys be in position. So he scrambled long enough to, have the results they have. And we were talking about it a little earlier. I remember playing the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football, and John Elway scrambled against our great defense for 13 seconds, lined up in the same spot in the field that Jaden Daniels did, let a pass go downfield, and it was like a 27, 28-yard completion that factored in the outcome of the game. So, yeah, you have this memory recall of maybe I've seen this before, but the end result, I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, which is something, because there have been plenty of Hail Marys and plenty that have hit. But to be a part of all that, I mean, our 0-1 season, which was my first at the mic, the Bears back-to-backs against San Francisco and Cleveland, the walk-offs with Mike Brown's interceptions. But one of those games, those Shane Matthews to James Allen, that would be considered a Hail Mary into the end zone that forced overtime.
Right.
That was about as close as I remember. But, you mentioned Elway, and I think with certain quarterbacks, and you could never do this as a player, but as a viewer, as a broadcaster, I'm not sweating many quarterbacks to heave it that far down the field and have something like that happen. Certain quarterbacks, yes. John Elway, Aaron Rodgers, Johnny Unitas, yeah. Jaden Daniels has got a arm on him. He just whips the football. And so he launched that thing from his 35-yard line.
But
so,
he's got the scrambling ability,
Yeah.
and that's the key ingredient to even setting yourself up for this opportunity. Because even if you go back and you look at the Peyton Mannings or the Tom Bradys, they don't have the escapability, the
Right.
Dan Marinos, the escapability to extend a play for that long before they have to get rid of the ball. So he's a uniquely talented kid, and I think he and Caleb will see each other on the field, and everybody's always going to have a big interest, and it's always going to be a story that's revisited every time Jalen and Caleb line up against each other.
The weird part is, and we mentioned it in the broadcast, Caleb did that exact same thing just 10 miles away at Gonzaga College Prep, in that big Hail Mary that put him really in the national spotlight. Pulled it out almost the same length, same scenario, scrambling to find time, and did it at the high school level there. But the other thing about it is that when a game like this happens, you just hope that it doesn't come back to haunt you. And you could say that about any play, obviously, that costs you a game, but you just hope that it doesn't cost you. And especially,
how about if it improves you, though?
Yeah.
How about if it makes you a better football team because of what you just faced, what Tyrique Stevenson has just faced, the message inside the locker room to everybody that has to pay attention to it. And we talked a little bit about the resiliency and the fight of this football team to get themselves back in. The big play to Keenan Allen, not the interference, but the scramble throw by Caleb to Keenan. So there are plays and there are instances in time that you have to really, take into account what they meant in this game.
Tastes like Miller time. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, so Tyrique Stevenson, we're going to hear from him. We're going to hear from Cole Kmet and Kevin Byard. They were made available on Monday to the media. But first, our sit-down interview with the head coach, Matt Eberflus, each week. The status at Hallis with Coach. All right, Matt, thanks for joining us once again. Appreciate your time. First, before we get into the tape and what you saw, mood of the team. I think that's always important to address after a win or a loss, and it's particularly one this way.
Yeah, I would say that the mood of the team is good. I know the guys are still disappointed. Meeting with them today, day after the game, but they're also encouraged. Because of the things we did. To be able to come down from a 12-0 deficit and to be able to get ourselves in winning position at the end of that game. Was really good by the whole group. We had obviously had a nice drive going there. We fumbled the ball on the one. The defense responded with a 3 and out. We get down there again and then have the ability to score a touchdown. With a really good third down conversion by Rome on 3rd and 10. And then also Keenan Allen being able to draw that foul. The DPI puts us at the 1, and then we punch it in on a second play. Which is really good. And, so we were in scoring position there in defense. I know that they had a couple yards on them, but, we played good on 3rd down, really played a lot of really good red zone defense and held them to, 4 field goals, which is pretty good versus that particular offensive group that's been scoring a bunch of points. So a lot of good takeaways from this. And again, we didn't execute on the last play the way we wanted to, the way we had in the past and in practice. But again, that's been addressed, and we'll work to get better there going forward. But again, there's a lot of positives to take from this particular game, and the guys see that, and the guys are working to improve. And again, we just ripped off 3 wins in a row, and this was a hard-fought battle, and again, we end up coming up short. But there's after every performance and every time you play, there's always something good and something you can work on to improve on.
Is it okay to have a little anger, though? I mean, as a player, as long as it's channeled properly, correct?
There's enough to have anger, as long as it's channeled into winning and bringing the team together. If there's anger, and a little bit mad or pissed off, however you want to say it, and it's dividing and pulling people apart, then it's not good. Because then it's about you and it's about being selfish, and I don't tolerate that. But I do tolerate guys that are passionate, that they care, and they are pissed. And they want to work to improve and bring the team together and work on themselves to make the team better too.
I know you spoke to Tyrique. I know he's speaking to the media today, but in a private moment, is he angry at himself?
Yeah, I believe he is. So I did visit with him privately, and the big main message to him was, how can we use this to develop, and how can we use this to grow, as a player? Because he's made a bunch of plays for us. He's done multiple things well for us over the course of his time with us, and he's made real impactful interceptions, tackles, and he's a really good player, and he's one of ours. So we got to make sure that we, obviously, work with him to improve. But again, there's also, for him, this is going to take a minute to get over, because it was a big deal, just about his focus and attention to detail in terms of in that moment.
Yes, because then as a head coach and, his position coach, John Hoke, I'm certain you're going to watch him this week, because you got to make sure it doesn't impact his next performance. Like he doesn't go into the tank a little bit, or he feels he can't show that same emotion. Yes, something should not have been done like that. No question about it. You can never excuse it, but you can't multiply the problem now, right?
Yeah, and I think that it's important to use it as fuel, to really, for your next performance. So you can always use adversity in a good way. Really use it as fuel to make you motivated to improve. Motivated to do it better and make you a better player.
From watching the tape, let's go into defense. The bend no break that happened multiple times. Three red zone field goals, which you'll take any day in those situations. What's been the key to the red zone defense? You guys are now number one in red zone touchdown efficiency allowed this season, under 40% conversion for touchdowns. A big reason why your defense is playing so well in the big picture. What's the key in what you've seen on tape in the red zone defense?
Yeah, it's always going to come back to the players. The players are doing a really good job of executing the calls in there. The guys know where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, and they're doing a good job of that. But in the offseason, we did a really good job of studying that. We really had to improve on that from last year. That and third downs, that was going to be a big point of emphasis for us. And I think we've improved on both those so far. And again, the year is still young, but we got to keep working it and making sure the looks are right and making sure we're executing the calls down there. But we put a lot of time and attention to it from a coach's standpoint, but also, like I said, it comes down to the players executing those calls.
All right, flip it to the offense. Caleb obviously struggled to find completions, just 10 for the game, finished those 6 of 8. How was it that he was able to mentally stay in the focus of the game plan despite that and still manage to put the Bears in a position to win the game?
Yeah, so it's about the grind, right? You just got to be able to grind through it, and we were fortunate that our defense, kept us in that position to win the game. And special teams, our special teams played really well yesterday. The kickoff cover, the kickoff return, punt return, we had really good protection. Obviously, Torrey on the punt and pins, created those field positions for our defense to be able to get those 3 and outs or set the field for our offense, in the last part of the game. But I think as a team, I think all together performed well going down the stretch. There's a couple of plays, everybody's talking about the Doug Kramer play and talking about the last play, but there's a lot of plays in between that where we executed well and did a nice job in terms of coming together to find a way to win that game. And again, we just came up short, and that's what everybody's disappointed about. But in terms of Caleb, I believe that, he just has to find his rhythm, inside the offense and really do a good job of, when the tight ends are there, the backs are there in those lower part of the intermediate, in the shallow routes, really just take the layups there. And again, they weren't open every time, and the protection wasn't great all the time. But again, I thought we did a decent job, going into the second half in terms of having that protection, with all those different players and combinations in there. That to me was really impressive. Doug Kramer's coming in there, Karan's coming in there. You got different guys moving around. And, I thought for the most part, with that being said, all the different combinations did a solid job of in the second part of the game there of keeping it pretty solid.
Yeah, let's talk about Amagaji because, as Tom always says, there's no notification. You're in. That's it. You got to be ready to go, and you prepare to play no matter what your position or place on the depth chart is. I watched it all, I'm not the expert, obviously, but I thought he handled himself quite well. Sure, there's some things he'd like to have back and work on technique. That's always going to be the case for any offensive lineman on any given day. But just kind of frame what he did in the situation, that in a high-pressure situation.
Yeah, I mean, to come in there and execute the way he did, I think he had some really good pass pro sets. I think he really did a nice job protecting at times. Obviously, I think he was late on a couple, opened the gate a little bit on a couple. So that's good. You're going to have that, as a young player. But for the most part, it was pretty consistent. Again, he's got to improve. Overall was a good performance, but not up to where he can be. And again, that's just all part of getting in there and getting that exposure.
Yeah, and you guys have learned a lot about him, how he worked in this offseason, working through that quad tear. So that was from last season, obviously, in college. So you learned a lot. You bankrolled a lot of information on him. And do you feel he made a lot of strides despite his injury, even mental reps?
Yeah, I really do. That showed when he came in and played. So, it was a good performance in terms of his first performance. But again, we look to get better from here.
Swift's on a roll, isn't he?
Yeah, exciting to see him play. He was really the energizer. Defense holding him to field goals and the special teams, and then all of a sudden now we get that big run over 50+ yards. Really good blocking on the perimeter, and the guys did a really good job with that. But again, you got a player like Swift that can gas it all the way. Some guys can't take it all the way like that. And he's one of those guys that's dynamic that way in terms of his ability to cut and move and his ability to take a home run. With his speed. So it was exciting to see that. Then he had a really cool run in the fourth quarter. He hurdled over that guy and had good ball security. Really gave us a lot of energy there. Going down the stretch.
I want to mention Torrey Taylor real quick because 5 inside the 20, 1 shy of a Bears single game record. So some weeks he's kicking 60s, other weeks he's just trying to place it. He really does have every club in the bag, and his performance should be noted. That's a pretty significant game right there.
Yeah, there was 4 punt and pins, and what we deem as a punt and pin. That was a really good job. Be able to set the field there. For us defensively, and then we took advantage of that a couple times. A couple times we didn't. We let them out of there a couple times, but we got to make sure that we take advantage of that every time so we set the field at midfield for our offense.
5 punts down inside of the Washington 20, tied for the most by any punter in the NFL this season. All right, now another road test before you'll get 3 straight at home. You got to finish up this chunk of road games in Arizona against a team you beat at Soldier Field last Christmas Eve. Kyler Murray had returned by then. I noticed that he's had great success with Trey McBride, the tight end, bridging last season to this season, some really significant production. What do you look at their offense real quick?
Yeah, just about, it's always about Kyler, right? His ability to move out of the pocket, extend plays. That's always going to be something that you talk about with him. And he's done a good job of that. I know they've scored a lot of points to start the season, and have been down the last couple weeks. But again, 2 big wins for those guys here in the last 2 weeks, but it's going to be a big challenge for our guys.
Yep, no easy outs in the NFL, as this weekend proved. What a lot of crazy last-second finishes, 9 games decided by 1 score. So once again, the league's on a record pace for 1-score wins, 66 through Week 8. Crazy.
Yeah, that's what it all comes down to. That's what we talked about in the team meeting today, about the in-the-game scenarios and executing those calls and executing those plays. At a really high rate in terms of being consistent and being on your job and being on the screws there. So again, we'll keep repping those and looking at those and making sure we're doing everything the right way.
All right, Matt, good luck with your prep this week. We'll talk to you next week. So yes, he is going to look at a lot of the positives that led the Bears to put themselves in a position to win the game, and that's what he does every week, win or lose, and the stuff you have to work on. So what are the building blocks from your perspective of what went well despite a slow start offensively, going 7 drives, shut out on the first 7 drives of the game, and then hope arrived when DeAndre Swift takes that crack toss left 56 yards?
Yeah, just the thing about it is, as challenging as it was for the offense to go out there and gain yards, get into scoring position, it didn't happen until they had that nice sweep that was led by Karan Amagaji, and DeAndre Swift fouled his blockers and was able to get in the end zone. right there, if you look from the side, you look from the end zone to the sideline, it's a whole different football team. They're motivated. They're excited. They know they're back in the game. They know that this thing has just started because there's still time left in the third quarter, and then the Bears have an opportunity to come back, and I think it kind of ignited the fight in the Bears, in these players, and that's what I was excited to see. But I know earlier in your interview with Coach Flus, you talked about the red zone efficiency of the Bears defense. And I think, Jeff, as we set up there broadcasting this game every time over the last in the Rams game, in the Carolina game, every time a team kicked a field goal, we never lost sight that the Bears can win this game.
Yeah.
If they keep them to those field goals. And that's what they did with that 9-0 lead.
You know what would have been too bad? I mean, it's too bad. He was out with an injury. That was Montez Sweat. If he was in there on that final drive, because he eats grass. He's the guy that can track down Jaden Daniels and put pressure on him, even on a double team. So that would have been, that's too bad that happened. That's a victim of circumstance there. All right, so a lot of the guys had plenty to say in the locker room after the game. You saw they wore it on their faces. They had that stare that comes with losing something you thought you had. But Cole Kmet had some really important things to say about the outcome of this game, and I think it's worth listening to right here. Bears tight end Cole Kmet.
Yeah, well, I mean, from Tyrique, just kind of stood up and, in a way said that what he did was unacceptable, and that he's got to be on the P's and Q's there, and which we all appreciate. I think unfortunately in that scenario, like he's a guy, gets caught with somebody with a camera, and obviously the result of the play that happens and all those type of things. But I think it's a really a good lesson for everybody to learn from in terms of how to respect the game. And I think we had examples of that throughout the game, and quite frankly, throughout the week of practice this past week, where there's moments where maybe some guys lay off here and there, and those are the type of things that can happen when you do that for just a split second. And it doesn't always come to bite you in the butt, but when it does, it hurts. And that's the unfortunate, and I would also say beauty of this game is that you disrespect it in a certain way, and it'll come to haunt you in some form or fashion. So I think it's a learning experience for everybody. We all play with a lot of passion. Tyrique plays with a lot of passion, and we all love him for that. But there's definitely a respect level of the game, and knowing that you got to finish it out until those double zeros at the clock.
Cole, I've got a separate question, but when you said there's moments in practice where people lay off, what do you mean? Just wanted to clarify what you were saying.
Yeah, it's more of a general thing. I'm not necessarily, whether it's how you operate in the weight, and this is all like things done in the dark, things that only you know personally. And that's like if you're in the weight room, are you doing all 6 reps, or are you doing 5 reps and getting out of there? Are you when you're out on the field, are you getting the jugs after practice? Are you doing this? Or is your footwork correct in the walkthrough? And just those little things that can't necessarily always be addressed by a coach or another teammate, but things that you do in the dark that really come to fruition on game day. And I think that's what respecting the game is. And if you relentlessly respect the game, I think you'll get the results that you want. And unfortunately, if you get caught disrespecting the game in some form or fashion, it does come to get you at some point.
Tom, as a former player yourself, and how much we enjoy Cole's conversation, I thought he crystallized the whole moment there, right? There's no other way to put it. You have to respect the game at all times. Otherwise, it's going to come back to bite you.
Is there any one word out of his interview that you come back and you think about it? He used the word dark a lot. There's a dark place, and what do you do in the dark? Do you do 5 reps when you need 6? Do you have the correct footwork in the walkthrough when
right. Well, when no one's watching? What are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it is I like that message by Cole, because Jeff, this is probably one of the first times I listened to him that I can think captain. I can think leader. I can hear it in his voice. I can hear the frustration and the determination. And I thought it was a great interview, and I really liked how he represented himself, the individual, not everybody, the individual, how he represented himself and his role and the importance of everybody's role.
All right, the man that's getting talked about league-wide right now, obviously on social media, it's a big conversation, but Tyrique Stevenson spoke to the team, then spoke to the media via Zoom on Monday, explained his stance on everything, didn't get into the weeds on exactly what he said, but took responsibility for engaging the crowd. He says it was Bears fans he was just trying to pump up, but for some 4 seconds of that play, his back was turned before the play started. So I've never seen that in an NFL game before. I don't think you have either, but it can't happen again. Let's listen to Tyrique.
Honestly, just letting my teammates down in a situation that we pretty much know how to handle on any day, pretty much with our eyes closed. So I would say the only regret I have from yesterday is just letting this team down from working hard and coming back and putting ourselves in a W column, and just for me to be out of place and do something that's out of character of me and just cost us a loss. So.
What's your process now of kind of gathering yourself emotionally and also dealing with what is going to be kind of a tsunami of outside criticism?
Can't worry about it, honestly. My focus is on this building and how the people in this building feel. I understand there's anger. I understand, somebody ticket. I understand that the things that go outside of the building that could, possibly affect how somebody feels and all that. But, to be honest, I'm worried about the opinion of the building. And if, these guys got my back and that's how I'm moving forward.
Tyrique, it looks like in the video that you're talking to fans as the ball is snapped. And then Matt said today that your obligation was to go box out Noah Brown.
Mm-hmm.
When you run in and you leap, are you trying to make an interception? Are you trying to bat the ball down? And is doing that related at all to trying to kind of prove a point or anything like that?
The play was I supposed to box out 85. That the play was, cheering with some Bears fans, wasn't taunting no fans. It was just cheering with some Bears fans, and the Washington fans reacted how they wanted to. And my job was to box out 85. And, when I went up to hit the ball, it was pretty much to knock it down. Interceptions, and especially in a close game like that. So. Just try to make a play for my team, and it either could have went. Oh, Tyrique, good pass, knocked down, or we're in the situation we're in right now.
When the ball, your back was turned to the ball when it was snapped. What was your thought process when you turned around and you saw receivers running down the field?
Pretty much just getting in my space and on my space.
Tyrique, what was when you get to the locker room, and when you get on the plane? What was that experience like?
It's like every other loss, quiet. Everybody to themselves, trying to figure out what each individual could have did better to, help the team win. So pretty much like any other loss.
KB told us just like a couple minutes ago that he's, he views it as his responsibility to pick you up in these moments. What has the response been from your teammates today?
Just pretty much just picking me up. Because, at the end of the day, if this happened to anybody else or anything else would have went down like this for any other teammate, we all would have been there just for him, just as they're doing for me. So a lot of encouraging words from the guys, a lot of love, and a lot of pick your heads up and, let's focus on next week. So great energy coming from the team. Can't ask for nothing better.
Tyrique, Matt told us this morning that you addressed the team in a team meeting. How did that come about, and what message did you want to give to your teammates?
Honestly, I don't feel like I should publicly share what intimate side of me that I share with the guys, because I let them down and them guys hold me to a high standard, such as everybody in this building. But to give you the brief message, just I apologize to them boys for letting them down. I let the moment get too big, and it's something that can never happen again and won't ever happen again.
To the coaching side of it, Tyrique, what have the coaches said, and have beyond telling you shouldn't have done that? Are there any consequences for it beyond that?
I don't think there's no consequences as of right now. We haven't met with the coaches yet. We've been going over film and doing walkthroughs and trying to get everything corrected. So honestly, I can't give you no details on that. But
how do you play with an edge like you do, but not overdo it like you've also done? How tricky is that for you? Do you think that's kind of a maturity thing that you need to go through, or just something? How do you improve on that? How do you, without taking away the edginess that makes you who you are? How do you kind of refine that?
I don't think it has nothing to do with my level of play. I think it's more of a mental part of the game that that I should improve on, far as just not figuring out, as like understanding that the game ain't over till all zeros on the clock, no matter if we up by 30 or we up by 1 point, so I would just say probably the mental game of just staying locked in through the whole 60 minutes instead of just, 58 minutes. The game could come down to any type of play such as it did yesterday. And, I got to realize that this is NFL.
Hey, Tyrique, after the unnecessary roughness penalty, is there ever a moment to yourself where you're thinking, I'm revving up too high here, I've got to dial it in? Or does anybody approach you and say, hey, you got to lock in here after that penalty?
Oh, yeah. No, there's always correction after a penalty like that. It's just, being a football player and being on the field and having your emotions and adrenaline pumping, sometimes things will get a little bit out of character. And if it happens to me, if it happens to any other guys, we always, quick to nip it in the bud and let each other know, like, that ain't who we are and that ain't our standard. So a couple guys let me know I got to keep my cool. And, at some point, I got to keep my cool.
Tyrique, Mark asked you a couple minutes ago about consequences. Being part of this team, when the standard is violated, what is the sense of accountability? What should be the accountability from one teammate to another in situations like this?
Pretty much what's going on now. You can't do nothing. You can't take back the game. It was yesterday. I understand the emotions and how everything flared up, but pretty much anything that a teammate could do is pretty much just point out the problem, address it, how they feel it, and if I don't respect that teammate, then I take it a certain way. But I respect all these guys and I love all these guys. So all I can do is take it on the chin and, let them boys know that, this won't ever happen again. They ain't got to worry about, me playing out of character like that again.
So Tyrique, he answered the questions. I mean, and he is right in one aspect of this. You can't undo what happened. It's done now, and you learn from it, and you just can't go down that path ever again.
Okay, then let's not go down that path ever again. That's all I leave it at. I don't want to see another personal foul. I don't want to see you poking your finger in the face of an opponent. I don't want to see all that extracurricular activity that can lead the Bears as a football team into negative yardage. And yeah, you better have learned a lesson. That's a teachable lesson to everybody in the NFL about what not to do in those important instances of time. You talk about the time of the play. He scrambled for however many seconds. Then he released the ball. The flight of the ball took time. And so there's a lot that goes into the entirety of that play from the time they break the huddle to the time that catch is made. But I just want Tyrique to accept accountability and understand that these infractions can't ever happen again.
Have a new or gently used coat laying around? Head to your local Jewel Osco until February 10th and donate one of your new or gently used coats to the 36th annual Chicago Bears Coat Drive. Help keep Chicagoans warm this winter. Our guy Tony Medlin spearheads that for a long, long time. It means everything to him. It means everything to the organization. I know it means a lot to you too, Tommy. You're a big contributor of that, as am I, and will continue to do so on behalf of those who need it as the winter months are fast approaching. Right? We love what Tony does.
Listen, man, I think the coat drive is one of the greatest things the Bears ever started doing. And, Gary Hager, the old equipment manager for the Bears, he had a big part of putting this whole thing together. And Tony has spearheaded it ever since he's been the head equipment manager. And when I see people walking the streets of Chicago during the wintertime and I don't see them with sufficient and enough clothing or a jacket on, I think back about this coat drive, and I just want them to keep on doing it. And anybody and everybody who can participate, please participate, because you're not giving up any time or effort. All you're doing is you're going into your closet and you're saying, I haven't put this coat on in 5 years. It can certainly help somebody else. Go there and deliver it to wherever these bins are offered to the general public and help somebody stay warm.
And thank you to a longtime partner with the Bears, Jewel Osco, for their assistance as well. All right, digging back in, Kevin Byard also was at the center of that Hail Mary throw by Daniels and the catch by Brown for the win. He also discussed his teammate and landed support right where it needs to be, because teammates have to take care of teammates no matter what, and that's what Byard's doing with Tyrique Stevenson.
at the end of the day, it's a tough way to lose. You never know what's going to be the play, but I always kind of look at it whereas though like we shouldn't have been in that playing that situation in the first place. There's a lot of plays that we could point to during that game, defensively, offense, special teams, whatever it may be, to whereas though we don't have to be defending the last play Hail Mary to lose the game like that. Obviously, it was an exciting game, playoff atmosphere. But yeah, obviously, I know Tyrique has kind of, been getting hammered, whether it was social media and obviously been in meetings and things like that. But I'm going to support my guy. I think for him, it's going to be a great lesson for him just as we go forward throughout the season and just in life, period. Just, how to be able to handle this adversity. And you only lose when you don't learn. And I think he's going to learn from it and we'll get better from it.
As a captain, KB, how do you help him gather himself, understanding that, one, he's an emotional player, and two, that there's a lot coming at him from the outside right now?
Yeah, like I said, man, it's life. Like if any of you is, have any children or anything like that, if your children does something that you're disappointed in or you don't like, does not mean that that's not your child anymore. You still love them. You still love on them. You can chastise them. You can hold them accountable, but you still love them at the end of the day. And Tyrique is our brother. He's my brother. And I will continue to love on him and support him. And, like I said, I know it's going to be a lesson learned from him. And I believe that he'll learn from this lesson. And he addressed the team without anybody asking and kind of said his piece and said what he needed to say. And I thought it was a great message, just apologizing and saying that, he wasn't locked in and things like that. So that just shows growth right there within itself. So that's all you can hope for in a situation like that. And like you said, we'll continue to support him.
All right. Everything we're hearing is what leaders need to say. They need to be out in front, and Byard is a team captain as well. Tom, any thoughts?
Yeah, listen, Kevin Byard's got a world of experience. He's got years of experience that Tyrique hasn't even scratched the surface of yet. But he also understands what type of player Tyrique Stevenson can be if he stays focused in on his job as a football player and what it can mean to the rest of his life and the future of his family. So Kevin Byard is just trying to give advice to a child, because he talks about the importance of having kids and how you teach them lessons. And when you look at the life of a football player, Tyrique is a child compared to a parent that Kevin Byard can be. It's not an insult, and I'm not trying to mince words or mix words, but Kevin Byard has got a world of experience in the NFL that he can help teach Tyrique some really important preparation lessons.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. All right, let's dig into this a little bit deeper. Let's go defensively, because the defensive line was quite active, Tom. They had a lot of tackles in this game, which you want to see. 29 combined tackles by the defensive linemen only. I'm not talking linebackers or anything like that. So that was pretty good production. Javon Dexter had 4 solos. Montez Sweat 3 hits on the quarterback and a sack. At the linebacker level, Tremaine Edmonds, the tackle leader, with 10. TJ, 6 tackles. Edwards also had a sack. And the 3 running backs that were of concern to me in this game, they only had 3 catches for 17 yards. So I thought overall, despite 481 yards of offense, and you take the 61-yard completion of Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, and then the Hail Mary, that's 100+ right there. It looks a little more manageable. But overall, I thought the defense spent. They didn't break. They managed things at the linebacker level, which was part of your big key to the game, actually.
Yeah, but yardage production is one thing. Keeping them out of the end zone for touchdowns is another thing. So if you allow them to be productive in their offense from their goal line to the 30-yard line, that's part of, being a good defense. When you get inside the red zone, inside the 20, and you become a stingy defense and keep them out of the end zone, that's what really matters. And so I understand there's a lot of yards given up. They have a lot of playmakers on that football team. Jaden Daniels did a nice job in scrambling when he had to. However, they kept them to 9 early points and, kept themselves in the opportunity to play up until the last play of the game.
Right, and they did miss a field goal that, maybe that size up front was a little too much for Austin Seibert kicking from distance, because he didn't get any elevation on that kick. He might have scraped the ground at first when he wound up to make that kick. Also, a terrific job by Terry Taylor in the punt game. 5 inside the 20, I think 3 inside the 10. So that's playing good chess match defense with your leg. Among the top backs in the league right now is DeAndre Swift. Tom, last 4 weeks had some really good productions, getting in the end zone. I'd like to see him more involved in the passing game, honestly, right out of the gate. I know you agree. Get the tight ends and the backs involved. Those are the easy completions that Caleb couldn't find in the early part of the game, and it kind of lingered until late when he went 6 of 8. But finding 10 completions is not enough, obviously.
No, I'm glad you transitioned, though, to DeAndre Swift to Caleb, because I think the best thing you can do for Caleb and a young developing quarterback is to have him have a decisionless process at the line of scrimmage where he's not audible concerned, where he knows if he has an outlet pass to a wide receiver, he's not thinking about reading defenses and changing the play. He's concerned about efficiently getting the snap of the ball off correctly and getting the ball out of his hands into the hand of a playmaker, that being DeAndre Swift or any of the other backs. So I think the best process we can talk about there is how DeAndre Swift can improve the thinking process for Caleb to make him a more complete, efficient, and decision-making quarterback.
Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. Let's take a look at the Cardinals. Because this is a team I didn't put a lot of faith at all in their defense, but their defense is playing actually a little bit better than I thought they would. And then with Kyler Murray, obviously now we have to be really aware of what he does with his legs. He does not take direct hits. If you're going to try and deck him, he's going to slide first or get out of bounds. He'll go down. He does not take hits. The Bears got a taste of him last year on Christmas Eve at Soldier Field, but now he's at home. I think it'll be a partisan Bears crowd. A lot of people I know are going. You know they're going to fill that joint up with Bears crowd. So it may feel a little bit like London than Arizona for a Cardinal home game. At least that's my guess. But where your concerns lie, especially offensively with this team?
Well, Kyler Murray, 36 pass attempts, and he was not sacked. It's really frustrating for a defensive line because it means that the less he's sacked, the more you're chasing him around. And he can be super fatiguing, and he can make you frustrated if he gets you on the peripheral and gives you a head fake and turns it into a first down. So to me, and we always talk about it, you got to limit the first downs by third down scrambles of a quarterback like Kyler Murray and make him throw the ball more often, even though if you're not putting him on the ground, try to create incompletions or interceptions. And you have a guy like James Conner, and he's, in this last game, he had 20 rushing attempts, and then he had 2 catches on three targets. He's a versatile back, and he's really physical. He plays well with Kyler Murray because Kyler Murray creates running lanes for him because of the contained type of rush that you have to have by the defensive ends, and then the interior of the defensive linemen and the separation of the linebackers to either – you're not necessarily going to spy Kyler Murray, but you're always going to try to keep him in front of you. So the way that Kyler Murray's athleticism changes the style of the defense, it opens up opportunities for Conner. And we haven't got to your favorite guy, the tight end, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, Trey McBride. I became aware of him at Colorado State a couple years ago. They drafted him, and now he's really hitting his stride. But since Murray's return last year, that was in Week 10, so this is a cumulative number here. So in his last 15 games, 122 targets and 95 catches. So that's a high completion percentage to him. Almost 1,000 yards, 10.3 a catch, 49 first downs, and he's off to a great start again. He had 11 targets, 9 catches, 124 yards in that game. He's not caught a touchdown pass this year, but he's moving the sticks, Tom. And then you throw in Marvin Harrison, and he's starting to get going. So you have weaponry to be concerned about here.
Harrison Jr., 18.5 per catch.
Yeah.
So he's almost got 2 downs per every catch he makes. He made 6 catches on 7 targets. So Murray, Conner, McBride, Harrison Jr., and they have other guys. But when you talk about the big 4 and the athleticism and the production of those guys, that's a heck of a a heck of a responsibility for the defense.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, right here at home, driving access toward healthier communities through it all. Back to the Hail Mary. How is it practiced? Really? Well, here's the only. I know. Here's the one thing, because you're not doing that full live. You don't want guys jumping, turning an ankle in practice. So yeah, it's repped, and you do it frequently. I don't know how frequently they do it during the season, but you have to. You have to stay sharp with it. Everybody's got an assignment. Go do it. But just so everybody's clear, Tom, you don't. It's like a special teams play. You don't run that thing full blast.
No, but what you do, it's almost like doing a rebounding drill in basketball, where you don't necessarily want guys jumping up in groups because you'd have the threat of turning an ankle, but you understand your responsibility of body position against your assignment. So if I'm covering Jeff Joniak on a Hail Mary, I know that I gotta be feeling you. I gotta have an elbow on you. I gotta be able to have something touching you that I know if you leave your feet, either I got to leave my feet, I got to nudge you with my hip, or I got to out-rebound you to that position. You cannot leave a character in the back of the end zone all by himself. And then the last thing that you cannot tip the ball in the air.
Tip it down, push it down.
Knock it down, knock it down. That's all you ever hear about the Hail Mary. And so lessons learned. Again, we talk about being in this game now for 30 years together, and it's the first time we've had this happen to us. I don't expect it to happen again, but the responsibility of your specific technique, it is a technique. It's not just a by chance. So you got to make sure that you're in the right place at the right time.
I'm glad you brought that up, because, we call it a Hail Mary, which is, in other words, a prayer. And, in many respects, you could look at it that way, but there's technique involved across the board.
Right,
offensively and defensively.
There's technique in the rush up front, how you want to keep the guy inside the pocket so he doesn't have that outside throwing lane to extend time and try to get to an open throwing area. You have to have a linebacker there that's kind of spying that midfield in case the quarterback decides to run and do the whole lateraling thing that we've seen happen in the
Here
past.
was a painful loss. Remember the Atlanta game in Atlanta? Matt Ryan. He had no time left. I think it was Harry Douglas on an out route, gets out of bounds.
With 11 seconds.
Yeah, and they kicked the field goal and won the game.
Yeah.
So we've had our share. Yeah. Believe me. And Aaron Rodgers. I mean, come on.
So is that the Hail
Brett
foot?
Favre.
If you get a Hail Mary, do you get a Hail foot?
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was going to say yesterday, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to make it all about Washington, but I know the Sun-Times used the headline, "Oh, hail no." I was going to say that, but I chose not to because they had this big thing, Hail Washington, Hail Command, all that. So, all right, well, let's talk injuries, because the offensive line now is a little bit in question here. What's going to happen? Don't know the severity of Braxton Jones or Tevin Jenkins. Tevin had to leave the game twice, both in the end with knees. I'm not thinking it's severe, but I don't know. We won't know until midweek, until guys start practicing or not. And how you felt about Karan Amagaji.
You're inserted into the game in the middle of a high-profile game where it's distracting crowd noise. I think Amagaji came in there. He had no mental errors. And that's the key ingredient right there. Yeah, he had a couple times that he was trying to be over-aggressive and he got his head down and missed his block. But the result of the play was a 2nd down and 3, the hurdle play by DeAndre Swift. Yeah, but he made the defender take a longer path to get to the point of attack, and so he never got there, and DeAndre Swift was up the field. I want to see a guy miss being aggressive, then I want to see a guy miss being passive. And so I'm not going to sit here and downgrade Karam Amagaji for what he did in week 1, because there's significant improvements you can make if you know that you're going to be the starter. And if that's the case, I have high expectations for him. A super intelligent kid. He's got good bendability. He's got good arm length. He uses his punch well. And so if you are drafted to be a starter in the NFL, your time has come, my son.
Okay, Father Thayer. The thing about it is he just faced the most significant competition he's ever faced in his college or high school football playing life, right then and there.
No doubt about it. I don't think there's a lot of those guys playing against Hinsdale Central. So, or, I'm not going to, I listen, there's a lot of great high school football players, and there's a lot of great players in the Ivy League.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But I'm just proud of his mental preparation, so the Bears didn't have to shrink the playbook.
I really like his length and his athleticism, too. He can move. He can move, as we saw on that toss crack sweep left, which I do love that play for Braxton Jones also. And I wish they would use it more, actually. Bears fans, Steinhoffel's a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffel's partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffel's donates $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. We'll be back with you on Thursday. We'll get in the weeds on Arizona. Look at their defense a little bit. They've had a lot of injuries on the defensive line. So I don't know what's left for them to deal with, but I'm expecting a bounce-back performance by the Bears in a much-needed way, frankly, because things are going to start getting real interesting here in a couple weeks. And you can't look past, obviously, but you're going to have 3 home games coming up after this trip to Arizona, which will be the 8th trip the Bears will have taken so far this season already. So it's a lot of trips when you put in the preseason in London. They're traveling the most air miles, I think, of any team in the league. And, travel does come with a price at times. One last one we got to get to, Tommy, is our Geico. The Geico brings your more football stat of the day. It's not about the Bears. I think you're going to like this one, Tom. This is about the Jets. They became the first team since 1940. Put that in perspective. To lose a game scoring 20 or more points, no turnovers, and holding their opponent under 250 yards of offense. Previously, teams were 756-0 under those conditions.
Well,
that's interesting. That's interesting math for me on that one. Because, baseball, you can always say, you know what? There's no way on the face of this earth that if you watch the game, even for 100 years, say you're 110 years old and you watch baseball since you've been a 10-year-old kid, something new is always going to happen. You can say that less of the case of the National Football League, but I keep getting proved wrong. That's another example.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think if you're a fan of football, no matter how long you've been a fan of football, you can always see a first. Mm-hmm. And this was my first Sunday in Washington.
You better not have a second.
I don't want,
unless it's a Bears win.
Yes, I only want a second.
So let me ask you, as it's happening. Okay, it's a first. It's a Ertz. Well, first was an incomplete, then an Ertz throw, and then the one to McLaren. Forget about you as an analyst for a second. As somebody just watching the game, what was going through your head as this is unfolding in the final 23 seconds? Do you recall?
Well, I was thinking I don't like the easy completions that they're giving up because of how dynamic kickers are in the NFL and how long of attempts that they're willing to give them. Then the speed of McLaren, and then, Jaden Daniels and his escapability, his arm strength, and just luck. Yeah, I'm going, God, please don't let these guys get lucky. The Bear, luck is going to come in, is going to enter this thing somehow.
Hey, Daniels could have run for a touchdown for all we know. It would have been hard to do, but hey, I'm not.
TJ would have tracked him down and lit him up.
But I got to say, your yelling about he caught it was just priceless. They played it on NFL Network time. They played the Washington call. They were very calm. Very calm, and then throw, because it was a long developing play, and then they lose their mind. You and I, calm, making the play, sounded a little tense. Boom. Ball falls into his hands. I couldn't believe my own eyes, and you took it right from my eyes to your mouth. And then I just quietly said, he caught the ball, and the game is over. Miracle finish. It's the Maryland Miracle, I guess. That's what they're calling it.
Not to me.
What are you going to call it?
I need to think of another word for disaster that rhymes with Bears.
Right. Come up with one for our podcast, episode 107. That'll drop on Thursday. We'll preview the matchup against Arizona. Also plan to talk to a Bears player, and heck, who knows? We may talk to a few surprises along the way. Special thanks to Matt Eberflus as usual. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a bear down.
I will not revisit the Hail Mary after today.
No, I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's over. That book is closed, Tom. That's it. It's a wrap.
All right.
Go Bears.